3 Saturdays until Auburn football is officially out there for their first game, which means it's high time for the first scrimmage of this fall camp. We got to look at it this morning, this afternoon as well, and we thought about it for a little bit. So let's talk about it. Our reaction, our thoughts about what we saw from Auburn's first scrimmage in Jordan-Hare for 2024. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live on the replay. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. For today's live stream, it is a reaction live stream, meaning we are taking some information that we have gathered, talking about it, processing it together. We've had a few hours to do so, and there's been other analysis out there as well about this particular subject, but we're going to give you our take, dive into a little bit, and of course want to discuss it with you, the viewers, today, especially those of you that are watching live. If you're on the replay, you can drop comments and we'll engage accordingly. But today was Auburn's first practice inside Jordan-Hare Stadium for 2024. Fall camp's been going on for a little over a week now. When they finally got out there into Jordan-Hare, Coach Hugh Freeze said that they might scrimmage today, and we will call it a scrimmage, but obviously there were some protections being had, some not completely live situations, although the pads were popping very heavily at times. There was a good amount of energy on both sides of the ball today, but especially on the defensive side of the ball. So that's kind of an allusion to what we're going to discuss today. We want to talk with you. For those of you that maybe had the privilege, if you're an On to Victory or one of those other situations that got to come to this particular practice, obviously jump in and let us know your thoughts, things that you have gathered from thinking about and following things on social media. You guys let us know. If there's a question that you have about what we saw, drop there in here too, and we'll try to talk about it as best as we can. As you can tell, just a little bit of housekeeping. We are in the first of our season's mobile broadcast studios, aka the E2C Network Mobile, I guess is what I need to call it. You'll see this a lot this year, most likely, as we do reaction streams after games and things like that. So don't be shocked if you see this view in different lighting. As you can tell, the sun is beaming on. By the way, folks, it is hot, and it was hot out there today. So all that being said, let's dive into it. You guys let us know you're here. Smash the like button. And of course, with War Eagles, however you'd like to let us know that you're here and consuming the content today. Dalton asked, did I see Kevin? I did not see Kevin today. I'm still waiting for that to happen. It's just we keep missing each other. But I did meet several of the viewers and listeners and followers out there across all the things that we do. So thank you guys if that's one of you that came up and said hello today. I'll go ahead and take a question to start off with, and then we'll dive into some more thoughts here. James wants to know, and I love that this is his first question, not the wide receivers, how did the O-line look? So keep in mind that we are live, but we weren't live, meaning you can only take so much from this situation. I would venture to say I would judge how well the offensive line did by the amount of sacks that were given up on the quarterbacks and how the running game produced. It was a really hard to grasp, I guess, maybe what the running backs were and weren't doing. The main backs, as you would say, were Jarquez, Damari, Jeremiah Cobb, although I was very impressed with Sean Jackson at times today. I'll just, as a personal aside for me, it's hard to gauge how well they did overall other than just trying to take in what you can from a practice. If I have it correctly, the starting five for the offensive line out there today were Xavier Miller, Dylan Wade, Connor Liu, that's a definite, Percy Lewis, and I'm missing one that's off top. Jeremiah Wright, I think that's the last one. Those were the first five out there. So that looks like your first five. There were some sacks given up today. But, you know, I think one of the things that we have to think about is, was this an opportunity for the defense, who maybe hasn't had a lot of time yet or opportunities to showcase some special things that they can do? This is their first time to do it in a live format. And I wonder if that's more of a little bit of what we saw. So I don't want you guys to hear me saying that there's things great with the offensive line or bad with the offensive line, because again, we have to take this within its context. I saw good and bad things. Quarterbacks were given time. They also had to run a little bit, which was kind of more in the camp of Peyton, who does a really good job of using his legs in those situations. Not that anybody else doesn't, but I just saw him do that more than the others. Maybe had more opportunities to do that than the others just because he got more reps. Running game at times was just kind of meh, but there were some, explosive plays. I mentioned Sean Jackson, again, running with some of the backups, but still doing a good job. I like the way he runs the ball, but let's be honest, we know who the three main ones are going to be. So there's that as well. Bryant says, what was the best play or scenario that we saw? I got it right here for you. And let me actually go back. I took some notes for those of you that wonder how you can get information like this from us when we're able to attend. We do have the Conquer Club, which is on patreon.com/E2C Network. At the Eagle tier level, we were giving people updates all day in that tier throughout the scrimmage today. Let me go and make sure that I have the matchup correctly in my head. Yes. Okay. So Peyton Thorne on a drive where they led down the field, hit Malcolm Simmons in the end zone from approximately 20 yards out. As Malcolm goes to secure the catch, the defender comes in. I think he swiped it and kind of knocked it out of his hands, and the ball kind of goes up into the air before he can secure it. But Malcolm has the presence of mind in the end zone to look up and find it. And it's almost one of those situations that we laugh about. Not a Ricardo Lewis situation, but just it was a great play by the defender, a great throw, a great play by the defender to stop this play from coming to fruition, and then a great extra play by Malcolm Simmons to score that touchdown from Peyton Thorne. So, and that was later in the practice as well. So that's probably the big play of the day. There was one interception, and I believe that came via Hank Brown about 3/4 of the way through practice, but don't take that as an indication of Hank Brown doing bad or poorly. I mean, it is an interception, but I am leaning on the side today that we saw a defense that was ready to kind of show what it can do and kind of flex its muscles. And the offense was still a little bit of what they were showing was vanilla. This was a close practice. As you saw from our thumbnail image, we weren't able to take pictures or photos. I just took that one as we left to use it as our, example footage for this. And I would say, even with the notion of us not being allowed to take pictures and things like that, they were still worried that some people would be able to do that and give some stuff away. So that is, I would say, I guess, I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, there's your your most impact play, your big play that he was asking about. A lot of people checking in from Facebook, YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here. Steve says, I saw where an attendee said that Thorne looked like his old self running for his life and off targets. The offensive line, the defensive line were live with the QBs, had orange jerseys. Hank looked the best. Steve, this is one of those times that I think we always need to ask the question of where we're getting our information from and what biases do they have? Because I did not get any indication that Thorne was back in old ways and things like that. He actually managed the offense, I thought, from what he was allowed to do and show and all that situation fairly well. He handled the pressure situations fairly well. Hank actually had probably, I want to say, the worst start, in my opinion, out of everybody, but he got a lot better as time went on. I think there was about 2 drives 3/4 of the way through practice where he really looked at his best. That's when I think he threw a touchdown, if I'm remembering this correctly, to Bryce Kane, or maybe it was to Malcolm Simmons too. Malcolm Simmons had a day, y'all. We'll get to the wide receivers more in a second. But just keep that in mind, that attendees are going to have their biases. I have my biases as well. But that, to me, sounds like someone who was looking for reasons to be upset at Peyton Thorne and trying to hang on to that type of thing. That's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that it's true. But I did not have any. I had the complete opposite reaction about that. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about quarterbacks, because I know that's where a lot of you guys are thinking about right now. What's the pecking order, right? If I remember correctly, this is the order that everybody came in with. Do with it as you will. I know some of you will read way too much into this, but you can read into this. Peyton Thorne is your starting quarterback. Get over it. I keep saying that to a lot of people. They still haven't accepted that. He came in and got the most reps first and got the most reps. Followed by, I believe it was Holden Garner. And then, if I'm not mistaken, it was Walker White, followed by another opportunity for Thorne. And then it could have been Hank Brown who came in. Now, as practice went on, it seemed like if I was paying attention correctly, that Hank's got more reps in lieu of Holden's reps. But then Holden at the end of the game got more and looked really good with what I think was the twos, quote unquote. So it's really hard for me to walk away from this scrimmage feeling like there is a legitimate quarterback pecking order outside of Peyton being number one. So let's just be honest. This is number one. Peyton's number one. Get over it. All of you can't get over it. The questions become, what's it after that? Going into this, I would have said it's as easy as seniority. Holden, Hank, Walker. I think today what I saw out of Walker is a kid with a lot of talent, but again, a lot of what we saw in A-Day, who is a freshman, is going to make those mistakes. But wow, I'm excited about his future. But I don't think he's ready yet. I think he had probably the best. And again, I'm trying to recall everything a few hours ago since we finally got done with Fan Day. He had the best ending to the day, I felt like, overall. So he got better as time went along for the whole situation with the QBs. So between Hank and Holden, you could read into the situation and you could say that Holden not getting as many reps as Hank as time went on and until the end maybe was an indication that Hank might be number two. But then there was some things that happened that I was like, maybe they were just trying to let them figure it out. Or maybe they were letting Walker and Hank kind of figure their pecking order out because we saw them, I think, the most other than Peyton. So I really have a hard time walking away from this situation with a clear definitive picture of the pecking order outside of Peyton being number one. I think I would lean that it is a dead even race between Hank and Holden after today. I think Hank showed enough stuff for me personally that I would probably put them on an even playing field, although I was more impressed with Holden at the end of the game. Steve says this was the first practice full speed. I am confident that it'll all be worked out by the game time. The source could have been a negative Nancy, as you said. I have a high suspicion that it was, that you were probably having someone looking for things like that, most likely. I could be wrong, but that's typical. It's a very high likelihood these days. Rugeril, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate that. And appreciate you guys. The reason I give you the coverage is because you guys show up and watch. So that's very much appreciated. All right, so that's quarterbacks. Let's talk about wide receivers. Let's talk about them, folks. Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson look really good in what we were able to see today. They have the athleticism. They have the ability. I would say Perry Thompson got more moments than Cam, if I'm remembering correctly. But the thing today that stuck out to me, and I've been kind of hinting at this with a lot of people, there's not enough conversation. There's not too much. Well, maybe I'll just go ahead and say it. There's too much conversation about Cam Coleman and Perry Thompson in relation to there not being enough about Bryce Cain and Malcolm Simmons. Namely, Malcolm Simmons today, 2 touchdowns for him today, and the one that we described earlier where he had just a great athletic play after the defender made a great play to try to ruin the catch in the end zone, and he recovered it. So that was probably the most exciting thing of today. So, I mean, my hat's off. My game ball, if I'm going to give it to an offensive player, is to Malcolm Simmons. And I believe one we're describing was from Peyton Thorne, and the other one, I believe, was from Hank Brown. I think they got the 2 touchdowns today. So there's that. And I believe his other one was a breakaway where there was something like that. I think somebody else had a breakaway touchdown. Maybe it was Bryce Cain. It's all kind of running together at this point. But anyway, wide receivers look great. Robert Lewis was utilized a lot earlier. Rivaldo Fairweather. Folks, get ready. for the tight end show, Rivaldo Fairweather. He got a lot of looks from Peyton. I like their connection. I think in situations where maybe the offensive line, the rest of the offensive units doesn't give him enough support, that's going to be his bailout guy and a reliable bailout guy. And also beyond that. So I liked what I saw out of those two together today, and I've liked that for some time. So there's wide receivers a little bit. Maybe in relation to that, some injury notes. I do know it was Lambert Smith that was rumored to have had an issue during one of the practices. He did not go today with the groups in the scrimmage. He was doing laps by himself in the end zone. I guess I shouldn't say laps, but drills by himself as they were running certain plays and stuff. He would stop and watch, and it looked like he was trying to kind of follow what the play was doing and think about what he was supposed to be doing in that scenario. But they did keep it safe with him. And I believe it was Keontae Scott who also had to do some similar things like Lambert Smith. So two major guys that at least looked to be banged up. 100% sure it was Lambert Smith. 90% sure it was Keontae Scott. I saw this very late. So there's that. Injury reports, things like that. We talked about it earlier, running backs. It's hard to gauge really stuff from there other than it looks like we're going to see a lot of utilization of all main three. But I hope Sean Jackson, the way he runs, I really like. He's going to get a lot more playing time, I hope. Unfortunately, because of the situation with Brian Battie, I do hope I just love the way he runs, and I hope his efforts from being on this team as long as he has gets rewarded this season. So there's that. Talked about tight ends a little bit already. Rivaldo's the main one there that you want to discuss. Defense. Outside, it's hard for me to pick individual things on defense. I just liked the energy. I liked what I saw. I liked everything that looked, the whole package on defense today. It just looked like they were ready to go. It felt re-energized. Again, it is a mostly full practice, full speed, hitting live, all that kind of stuff. But I liked what I saw out of it overall. Special teams. Oscar Chapman, he can boom it, y'all. If you didn't know, he's a good punter. Kicking wise, we got to see the other backup kicker, and his name escapes me at this point. I might be able to go find it here in our notes that we had for the situation. I'll just remember to note about what the quarterbacks and a note about an interception and stuff I'll come back to. Let's see. Sylvester Smith, I think, may have gotten tweaked on a play. And I do know that Keldrick Falk kind of got either the wind knocked out of him or something, but he seemed like he was okay after that as well. But on special teams, we didn't see Alex McPherson. We did see Towns Magoo kick a couple field goals. In fact, when they scored touchdowns, they, instead of kicking it at the extra point line, they backed it up and moved it over to a side to test that out a little bit. So we got to see a lot of that, a lot of the opportunities for some people that may arise if like Alex McPherson can't go. Quick reverse back to when we were talking about quarterbacks, because somebody was talking about an observer here today that said that Peyton had not as good of a day, but Hank did. Well, Hank's the only one that threw an interception, if I'm remembering correctly. I do know that he threw an interception, but he also had a touchdown, and he also had a decent day overall. So I wouldn't knock him of that. So just remember that when people are like saying, well, I was there and I saw this, so that's 100% what it is. A lot of times it's just people's biases. They're looking for things to complain about. So I'm going to look through the rest of my notes real briefly, kind of as we're wrapping up here a little bit. But I want to make sure that I answer any questions, topics from this practice that you guys would like me to discuss. But I think we've walked through the most of it today, especially the most important things. The person that picked off Hank Brown was Caleb Harris, who continues to be talked about a lot from practices here. Just checking one more time to make sure we didn't miss covering anything. And again, if you are in our Conquer Club, a lot of these notes that I'm refreshing on were in our chat for the Eagle tier. TJ asked, what was the brightest light today? Well, the brightest light is the one that's coming in on me right now. But I'm assuming TJ's asking about who was the person that made the biggest statement. If that's what you're asking, it would be Malcolm Simmons. Malcolm Simmons had a great day. 2 touchdowns, very athletic play in the end zone for one of them. And I would say a lot of the freshman receivers, they stood out a little bit. So that story, that expectation continues to build, and they make it harder and harder for people like me to sit here and say, hold on, temper the expectations, just give them a second. But it does look like all of them are for real. For real. So I'm trying to back off that a little bit as we go forward. All right. If you have any other questions, comments, topics that you'd like for us to discuss about this on the live portion of the show, go ahead and drop those in now. Let me go ahead and remind you of a few things that we've got coming up here on E2C Network. First and foremost, the next scheduled live stream, scheduled is a keyword. You always want to be subscribed and following so you don't miss stuff, because sometimes we do surprise things. That might be a hint for maybe even today. You just never know. Never know what my schedule might entail. But this Sunday, 9 Eastern time, we will be doing the Auburn Experience live broadcast recording here on YouTube. Join us here for episode 89. We'll definitely talk about Fan Day. We'll talk about this practice. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff in the Auburn Experience. Sports, culture, family. It's all orange and blue, and it's what we do. We also have our Wednesday night call-in show where you can join us and do calls with us if you'd like to take the option to do that, just some general discussion about anything. And those would be the main things that I want to call your attention to. And just make sure you're following, subscribing, liking, all that good stuff. Any final notes, comments, derogatory rebuttals? WDE, can't wait until the season starts. This was a nice taste of it. 3 weeks, 3 Saturdays, 21 sleeps, I think is what they say, away from Auburn football. If you can't tell, that is Haley Center behind me in the window. Football stadium is right over there. Folks, it is good to be on campus. It was an exciting day to see our boys back out on the field. And I have the more I listen to, the more I watch, the more I see, the more I interpret from others as well, the more encouraged I am about the season and the potential for it. That is not an indicator of record predictions. That's not an indicator of anything other than I like the path that we're heading on as a team and what I'm seeing. Could be a very, very exciting year, but only time will tell. Thank you so much for joining us, being here, hanging out with us, especially for those of you that were live. Make sure you subscribe, smash that like button on the way out if you enjoyed this content, and we appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.